call the meeting to order and start off as we always do with the Pledge of Allegiance.
One by the tree.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So has everybody perused their minutes?
I have.
And Bob, you had a chance to look at it? We all think they're okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll make a motion to accept these minutes. Need a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Okay. Like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing up, okay, is a tax warrant. All right, and we have to sign it because we want to send our tax bills out, and it's perfectly done fine, to the tune of $2,783,428. That's how much we have to put. We'll be taking donations this week.
You can also pay online.
During the meeting, okay. So anybody want to make a motion to accept these, the warrant?
I'll make a motion to accept the warrant as
In a second.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Easy to spend a lot of money, isn't it?
We're collecting a lot of money
Yeah,
here.
well, collecting to spend, I guess.
I do, if I could just make a comment, that I really want to praise our tax collector's office for doing a really great job in collecting this $2.78 million
right.
because we're really fortunate.
I know, I'm right through COVID and up to now, and we've never had any troubles with our collections, which is terrific. She's worked with people, but yeah, it's incumbent upon her to do that. Okay, now, for those of you who know what an MOU is, okay? Memorandum of Understanding.
Did you skip over fire department?
Did it? Oh, I'm sorry, I did. I'm sorry. That's right. I had something.
Are you mad at Jay?
Well, that's right. He was nasty to
You
us, so I
insulted
just
your
kind of did
car.
that intentionally. All right. All right. We have the fire department. I do want to say something before it, though, only in that we lost another old timer. Gordon Lang passed away this week. When did you know exactly when? It's been
Saturday morning,
was it
maybe?
Saturday morning? You know, I mean, Gordon was always a well-intentioned guy, and I mean, he loved the town of Jackson. He worked for the fire department for years. I don't know.
Pretty, somewhere near, almost 50.
Wow.
Imagine that, you know. So again, as I say,
Plus warden for the state, appointed by the selectmen, deputy warden for a long time.
yeah.
And he was one of the founding members of our Jackson ambulance.
Good man. As I said, was always well-intentioned. He loved the town of Jackson. And he really loved his little fire station, too. It's supposed to be a joke, folks, okay? So, but yeah, thank you, Gordon, for everything you've done. And you rest in peace. All right. Emily Benson in the Whitney Community Center, the
Is there
memorandum.
anything else on the fire department, or is that it?
Oh, jeez, that's right. That's right. I really want to get this thing going,
I was gonna
because I'm thinking about the whole thing. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Did you get your ADHD meds today?
You know what? No, I know. No, I'm drinking water. Yeah, we want to talk about the fire department. Bob asked about that, and I think we got to get more out there. We have to talk more about this. We've been talking for 3-4 years now. You know, and I just got just sort of the opinion of, you know, there's an old fishing expression, cut bait or fish, okay? And I think we've been cutting bait for a long time. So now's maybe the time to do something to propose it to the town. I'm just throwing that out there, just my opinion right now. I know it's a long way to go, but I think it's time. There's enough information for everybody out there now, because we've talked about it so much, and we've got the planning board working on it, the board of selectmen, Dave has been working on it, so I just wanted to say that, but go ahead. What do you have to say? Anybody, Jay or Bob?
I'm just looking for an update on where people are with positions, if people are open-minded. It just seemed like the one thing that everybody seemed to agree on was that the fire station, as it is now, needs diversion of resources in order to maintain it and for it to be viable. I think that might have been my very first meeting that we talked about, you know, the average age of your firefighters is up there. And
I wrote 62. Is that
Yeah.
right? I'm sorry, I was just wondering 62.
Yeah, we had
I
to
just wanted
run-
to make sure correct that. I said
We had a
age.
run late spring, middle of winter, where I was tracking it, and like over the course of 8 calls, our average age was 58 to 68,
Yeah,
with 7 or 8 people showing up majority of the time.
right.
So we're definitely aging big time. And that's, you know, what's gonna happen is I predict, we're gonna age, I don't know if age out a little bit is the right term, but we got a lot of older dedicated people, and as time goes on, we'll probably see some changes with the amount of people we have responded to.
Right. Right, well, and just the reason I bring that up is that's part of something we want to be cognizant of. We want a facility that is something that the town can be proud of, and also something that can be attractive for people that are considering public service in that area. And I mean, it's a similar argument that people have made about school, and that was part of what was discussed when we were trying to figure out where to place the Whitney Rec Center and the advantages that could have for school-age kids and everything else. And we want families to come into town if they can afford it. And we want, you know, all of these things to be vibrant so that we've got these community services available for our residents. And so whether it's a renovation or it's a new construction, I think that we can't have lived here for the last couple decades and not realize that it's the fire department's turn. So that's kind of where I come into it, and then everything else beyond that is subject to people's perceptions and personal experiences, but I do think that this is the time right now to begin this conversation as a new board with our eye on March, and feeling that I hope, as a board, as a 3-person board of selectmen, feel a commitment to making sure that our best idea comes before the voters. That's just in general what I'm thinking.
If I could tell on that, I think you're right, we do have a lot of really good information. What we do have, though, is some older dollars, and I'm gonna go as far as to call them COVID dollars, because they were quoted during COVID. And so to refresh that, that's where I think the Capital Improvement Committee, or the Planning Board, is going to come in really handy right now to revamp what those numbers are, so the voters, hopefully like Bob, you said, we can put something to the voters. We have we have a divided opinions here as far as renovation versus new build, but we also need to know what those dollars are comparatively. It was mentioned, what if we did like an either or warrant? If we put it to the people and said, either you vote for this, or you vote for this renovation versus new, or nothing, like a pick multiple choice. Is there something that's possible to do like that? Because I think that for the 3 of us to make one recommendation is going to be tough, because the dollar values are going to be so different for a renovation versus a new build. So the task being on the planning board is what are the options that we want to put to the town, and David and Bill in front are here but David and Bill from the planning board certainly are here to give us some more information tonight. But you're right, I think we need to definitely re-educate ourselves and bring current the amounts that we have to discuss.
Jay, you and I had bit of conversation today and talked about how, you
Yeah, I
mentioned
mean,
something that Barbara just mentioned.
I was planning on coming to one of these meetings soon, because I wanted to find out what direction we think we should head with the fire station. Because in talking with Julie a little while ago, a month ago, or whenever it was, it'd be really good to try to have that decision so in November we could start planning, not wait till December or January to say, okay, we gotta write a warrant or we gotta figure this out. So my goal was to figure out what direction the three selectmen and me or whoever thought things would go, so we could prepare for it in November. Whatever that may be.
And
I
have
guess-
public hearings or.
In
Yeah,
public
public
hearings and all
hearings.
that.
Right.
Because it's a big item. I guess I feel we need to take, I mean, I've been years looking at renovation, I've got renovation costs laid out. Of course, we looked at the new station and that stuff. I'm trying to get an updated number from the builder of the North Colony Fire Station, because as we know, we had a number that was
It's got that.
totally off the charts and screwed up with COVID and everything. So I'm trying to meet with him to try to get a real number. He built Twin Mountain too, so. But I feel I guess my opinion is, and I've never really taken an super official stance, because last couple of years ago, I didn't feel we were ready, which we definitely weren't. I guess I feel we need to take a real serious look at a new station and not just be scared of the price. I mean, long term, it's definitely you look at it long term, there's no doubt that's the way to go. I mean, it's just long term expense. And I guess my choice is to put that towards the voters and expect a 2-hour discussion on it at town meeting. I mean, it's a huge item. I guess that's where I'm at right now. And see what happens. I mean, the only tough part with putting 2 options on the warrant in 1 year is, if you're gonna replace this table, and they're always gonna go for the cheaper one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather have real serious discussion on new, and if it doesn't go, then we look at option B the following year or something.
But I think that you mentioned town meeting as having that 2-hour discussion, which to me is too late. You have to
You're
have the
never gonna
public.
get enough people to come to a budget meeting.
Somehow we
still
have to
gonna-
get the discussions going so much far before that they're
For
educated enough to make that.
For sure, but in all the years of paying attention to this stuff, something like that is still gonna be a 2-hour discussion, because there's so
I
many
agree, it will
people
be a
that.
2-hour discussion, I just think the more education we need to get the voters and the voters, I say, but also the taxpayers to buy in, because they're the ones who may not be voters, but they also have
Oh,
to weigh
for
in.
sure.
So just as much education and information that we can give them on the whys and how much the tax dollars are that are going to affect them. And whether
Yeah,
that's this much per thousand, or the
Right.
bonding it out at this much or whatever. And I'm gonna go backwards again, saying the planning board may come up with 3 different things that are important to the town, whether it be a playground, grazing garage, a fire station, a public service building, any number of things that the voters are gonna have to decide on. So the fire station is definitely, I can't imagine what else could be that high a dollar amount. But the sooner we can get it formulated and put out in front of the public, the more education we can have, so we can make our recommendation to the voters.
And like Bob said, I think the priority should be the station. There are other things that we could do around town, we need to do, but certainly we're at a point now where the money has to be put there one way or another.
Agreed.
So getting all the information we can, like we're doing now, it's only May, as I mentioned to Jay, and just kind of keep this momentum going. And the planning board already, it was a very lively discussion we had the other night. And again, there are 3. So that leads to my next question. Should I bring our planning board people into this discussion? Is that because they've been doing what they've been doing. Does that work? Is that all right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
just wanted to
sure.
make
I
sure.
mean, I'm sure they're far ahead of where I am in the game.
Right.
But I would think, one of the things I want to add to the conversation when it comes to communication, I know we did this a couple of times, and I know we did it, we had a listening post. We had a listening post one evening here about trying to encourage people to get involved with the town boards and committees, and here's what you can do, and you know, just see who that attracts or whatever. And I think that I think we should look at a series of ways outside of budget hearings and outside of, because you're right, that the annual meeting is the end. But I'd like to begin in the fall. I'd like to know how soon we can get a real understanding of what we're trying to, you know, ask for the voters to weigh in on. The
Right.
difference between a renovation number and a new construction number, and what the difference is, and where the money's gonna come from, and is it a bond, is it this, is it that?
Right.
All of those things, so that the voters who wanna be informed have an opportunity to become informed. And whether something like that happens in this room or down at the Whitney Rec Center or whatever, I think I want to do whatever I can to make sure that I've done due diligence to listen to what people in town have to say. I think we all do. I think others
Yeah.
are doing.
And you said it's only May. I mean, it's like, right, it's crazy.
So one of the things, and I don't know if we just make these available, but the official report from the study that we did was the architect. I mean, there's a lot of answers in here, and I know a lot of people haven't necessarily seen it or read it, but, I mean, the first few pages of it talks pretty directly of what and why. So, I mean, I don't know if there's a way to print out copies of it and have it if anybody wants it, or, I mean, it's fairly thick, and I don't know as though,
I think if you scanned it and put a link on the fire station, and then we send out an e-news or something through our means of communication that says it's available here, then you can see the pros and cons, the benefits of, or, you know, whatever, all that information, and people can link to it if they want a hard copy, you know, maybe a request for it, but I don't think printing
that's something we can.
50 to 100 copies
Put different places, or.
would be smart, because it is pretty lengthy, but. you know.
What is there at the beginning, Jay? Like a 2-page summary? Or?
Well, the very section
Bob
one,
can have
there's
a hard
a
copy,
summary, there's a scope and fire station evaluation. It talks about what and why, basically.
Yeah.
And then there's a little bit of a summary on those first few pages,
Mhm.
and then it gets in. Then there's a basic page with some info I had that I gave to the architect.
Yeah.
And then it gets into what the building might look like and some costs
I
that we.
think if there's a brief summary to that at the beginning, there might be something, if there's a couple of pages, maybe that's what can go on e-news, and people can,
Yeah.
and then we can say, for the whole report, come in, see Julie or Julie, if you really want to dig deep, and some people might, but that's a great way to really, you know, publicize that this is important to us and we want to get it right.
We did do an open house, that was a few years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, that brought out 100 people. You know, we spent the money and sent out, we call it when you send something out to all the taxpayers in the mail. It was like $1,000 worth of postage to send something to 800 taxpayers. So we've done that, not that, I mean, we could do another one easy enough.
But, you know, I attended a planning board meeting a couple of weeks ago now, and I'll be back, remember, I'm on vacation in June, but I'll be back in July. But Dave had a list of, there were 3 different ways of looking at this, and I don't think it would be too, do you have some of that in front of you? You don't have it, okay. Well, there are, how about you, Bill? I mean, just to some of the things that it mentioned, because there were 3 options
Well, we were talking.
with different prices, that's what it is.
May I speak?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think Jay, he was just reporting really conversation he had with you, and the conversation I've had with you, which is pretty similar. We really have several choices. We have a choice of either fixing what we have, replacing what we have in place, or replacing what we have someplace else. Those are really the three choices that we have available to us. Each of them has a cost associated with them. The highest cost is actually, from what I understand from Jay, it would be actually fixing or replacing in place. And that's largely to do with the fact that there's moving parts. You have to remove things, take things down, replace, then move things back. You've got all kinds of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure issues with in place, you know, and then we, there's an option right over here at the tennis courts. I call them tennis courts, most of you probably doesn't know where that is, but, so I'm re-looking at that because it's probably considerably less expensive than in place. So I am studying that a little bit myself. We looked at it in the original study, but we felt that would be a better spot for it, which it is, but it's an expensive spot for infrastructure and excavation and that type of stuff.
And the thing we really didn't talk about in our meeting is that there's also a cost for doing nothing. And that is that if you keep what you have a continual annual charge, if you will, to fix what you have, to repair what you have, to replace what you have, and you end up having something that continues to depreciate. And so it's, for me, it's like deciding whether or not you're going to fix the old car or buy a new one.
Yeah. And I mean, the numbers are nothing to hide. I mean, you're looking at 1.5 to 2 million is my estimate, which I've got a lot of quotes on, real serious estimate, for a renovation with a small addition to renovate what we got versus 4 to 5 million for new. So.
If I could offer, I'd like to see if I can put a stab at putting the pros and cons together of each of the options, and I think I can do it objectively. And then we can review it at the next select
You
meeting.
don't have to convince me, I'm sure you can. I'm sure you
But
can.
would that sound good? And then that's something that we can take, Bob, does that make sense to you?
Sure.
And then I want to make sure Bob has a copy of the full report, so if you don't, is that the one from San
Julie,
Diego?
one of the Julies made this for me. 'Cause
That was
I
the one that
didn't
was in
know.
the binder from Sam and Delia?
Yes.
Yeah, so get you a copy of that part of it and then anything Jay has, but let me put
I
something
think she got
together
that
with
for me.
the pros and cons of the three options of do nothing, rebuild, or build or renovate. And we can start there, put something online for
And we'll be
access.
using the work of the planning board, with Dave, because he had a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
we
mine
didn't
will be
talk about.
very high level, not even.
Well,
Yeah, because we're working,
Yeah.
we're
We're
working.
happy to
Yeah.
work with you,
Yeah.
and I mean, the capital improvement plan relies on the various areas to feed us,
Sure.
and our purpose is to feed you. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole purpose of the darn thing, is to feed the select board in terms of making decisions about establishing priorities and how you're going to fund them. And so it's symbiotic. We're not doing this in a vacuum. The whole idea is to support you.
Good. And we just want the town to have a shot at this.
Yeah.
Whatever we come up with, and
And
let's
really-
go from there and see what happens.
Yeah.
And reminding everybody, it's not an easy haul. You
Mhm.
need a 2/3 vote
Mhm.
to pass the bond. So that's a lot of votes. So we'll have to see. So there's gonna be some convincing that's gonna have to be made, or, you know.
Yeah, and like I say, getting people to come to town meeting.
Mhm.
I mean, because there's 800 people in town. And, you know, you're gonna go to town meeting, vote on a $5 million fire station with 100 people.
This might drive them out a little bit.
Just so you know too, my offer to do the pros and cons was just because my husband's on the planning board, I was just gonna ask him to do it.
Yeah, that's not, because he's the one that had all the information. I'm looking to, I'm gonna take it from him.
So do you want to get together
Conflict.
with me and to go over the pros and cons, or?
I'm gonna start on it from where we left off last meeting with
Okay.
because unless anything has really changed significantly, I think we can start with
Yeah,
that.
I think there's a few changes with this option over here,
Okay,
for sure.
well, let me
So,
start with it and then I'm gonna,
Yeah, we took some notes
really loop them
when we
in.
talked about the
Yeah.
pros and cons.
So,
Let me get a start and then I'll loop everybody in because I don't wanna step on
Yeah.
toes or duplicate work.
Well, I think we're making a positive move here, you know, and as I say, I think we know a lot more now than we
Yeah.
did 2 years ago, or even 3 years ago.
I think we're in a better position. Yeah.
and that's part of the reason why, 2 years ago, basically, everybody wanted to put it on the warrant, most of the committee from the study, and I was like, no, we ain't really ready.
Yeah.
What would be happy there?
Well, here we are. Any more discussion on this topic? Yeah.
I got a couple quick fire department things if you wanna.
Well, might as well do it.
The fire alarm's back to normal, probably, I don't know if everybody even knew we had an issue with it, but spent some money out of the fire department expendable trust fire bond account.
Oh, yeah, the fire pond, Valley Crossroad.
So that, we had a issue with it washing out for the second time and in a different spot, so hopefully we got that solved this time.
That's the Valley Crossroad one. you're
Yes.
talking about. And don't forget the tree that was hanging in there,
Yeah.
too, you had to get that out of there, too.
Well, yeah, it's out of the pond.
I think we got a good deal on the excavation.
That, I think there's anything else major. Carriage House, Eagle
There's a-
Mountain House, that's almost complete.
Had a pretty good sized fire last week.
Yep, had a big fire in Bartlett, well, fire. Barbecue grills, try not to have them on your deck.
Where was it?
Birchview by the soccer,
Oh,
across from Joseph's Spaghetti Shed.
mhm.
Been a lot of fires, pretty common to have a barbecue grill fire and have it catch your house on fire, and it usually does not end well. Because usually what happens is you run inside, and then when you realize the house is on fire, you come flying out and leave the front door open, and all the fire goes upstairs. So that's fairly common item, so put that out there to be careful with grills.
Okay. Any other questions, Bob?
Nope, I have no other
Okay.
questions.
Thanks.
All right, well,
Glad to be part of the
Discussion.
conversation.
Yeah.
thank you guys for that, and we'll just, we'll keep it out there. We're ready, this is the year.
See what comes between now and November then. And
Yeah.
so we'll get together on pros and cons and talk about that, one of the
Yeah,
upcoming selectmen's meetings.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
great.
Okay, now I can get to Emily Benson.
This
time, right. Memorandum of understanding with the Whitney Community Center for any kind of emergencies we might have, we can use that. So it's all been signed, or as Julie put it, to Julie, and it said, after our MOU was signed by the select board, I will bring the copy to the school to get the school board signature. Then we should be all set. Phew. So she feels really good. There's a lot of work put into this over the last few years. So we're ready. We have to make a motion on this anybody want to make a motion on this about the Whitney Community Center being used as an emergency building in case something happens in the town?
I'll make that motion.
Any
I'll
seconds?
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Is this a similar MOU to what's been put together in the past, or is this the first time we've had a memorandum of understanding?
I think it's the first time we've had an
It's a new
official
This one,
MOU.
okay.
I mean, it's always been our shelter for a long time.
Yeah. Okay.
Ever since it's been there, I guess.
Well, I think it's great to put this stuff in writing.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's great that
It
Emily
looks like it's
Benson
really
does
well done.
all this work.
Yeah.
23?
22, 23, sorry.
Okay. We gotta get a school board signature on this too, I see, right? So I'll just put it in the folder. All right, Run the Whites, it happens every year, they have a little race in town, it's August 11th. They've already talked to our chief, Chris Purley, he's all set for all of it, so, I'd like to make a motion to.
Actually, you
You don't have to,
just
that's
did
right,
it.
it's already just happened year and year, okay, so
Well,
that's good.
Chris took care of the signing it, so you
Okay.
don't need to.
All right, okay. Any discussion about any of that, you gonna be running that race, Mom?
I will not.
No, okay,
August 11th, never know. Maybe my wife will.
okay.
Just ran a half marathon.
She can do that, what is that, it's not
Did
a
you do the
long
one in
race.
Maine? Did you do the one over in Maine?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
6 a.m. start time.
Ooh.
Are you kidding me?
I can all I can do to run.
It's because it was light out anyway.
Oh.
The Eagle Mountain House, we've already signed this, and it's just for an extended liquor license. It seems to be happening everywhere, but they're, so that they can drink outside and do some other things within certain parameters. So I'll make a motion that we accept that extended liquor license for the Eagle Mountain House.
Second.
Second.
2 seconds.
All in favor?
All seconds in favor.
Aye.
Okay, now this is your big moment, Bill. We've designated you as the alternate to the Carroll County Commission District. You're right behind me on that, okay?
Carriage race.
And you see, and we actually have something here for you to sign. No, that's it. You
No,
gotta
that's
sign that.
not.
Sorry, I did that to you.
Next week, I'll get
So,
which.
do we have to do like,
Liquor license.
you want to do it, we know you want to do it.
You don't, Karen reads the oath.
She does, okay. So we just have to sign it and get ready for Karen to read the oath.
Exactly.
And she's very serious about these oaths, so make sure you put your hand up and all the things you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But
so
did-
Bill Terry is
Andrew,
going
did
to
you
be
make a
the
motion?
designated,
No, so-
make a motion to make him the alternate to the Carroll County Commission District, alternate behind me, who is the main guy. Thanks for helping me. Okay?
I'll make that
Anyone
motion.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Bill, again.
Yeah, appreciate that.
I don't know when our first meeting is, but I know, pretty soon. Oh. Okay, here. All right, we got an intent to cut
Report.
report, okay? Let's see, you gotta make a motion to accept this. What is the value of this here? Total amount due, $85.96. Small. And there's a lot of wood involved. But anyway,
I'll make a motion to accept the board to cut.
okay, I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the date again, 5/23. Okay.
Oh, date, sorry. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So that actually has 2 spots. Did you see the second
Oh.
page?
Just because you put flags out.
You caught me. There's another one, okay. Oh, yeah.
Like a hawk.
How could I miss that? Like I do every week, right? You didn't see the second signature either. You usually on top of those things.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna do a withdrawal of trust funds. We're selecting requesting the following withdrawals. $54,000 from the Highway Truck Capital Reserve Fund, 0048, invoice number 8489344, dated 4/28/2023, for HP Fairfield Limited. And that's our Dodge
The flag.
550 or something. It's a
55.
yeah, it's a 5500, it's a big truck. And Gary feels really good about using those instead of our monster trucks to do the roads. And you don't need that special license to run them either. And I think the roads look pretty good this year, considering.
Mhm.
And also, another $3,373 for the Mark Hammer Police Department Fund. Invoice number 87897, dated again on 4/24 from Ossipee Mountain Electrics.
So
Money's already been raised, good, good.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Use it. Okay, there you go. Now, back to the facilities committee, and Dave, you're up.
How does this work?
Just tell what
You
have you got.
Sit, stand.
Hey Kevin, can you grab the door?
I have some.
Don't know exactly. Yeah. Oh,
Thank you.
Okay, so, this is just kind of follow-up from a meeting months ago regarding the facilities committee. We developed some subcommittees from that group, from the board of selectmen. One of them is the Gray's-In garage evaluation. So, myself, Bill Terry, Fred Tompkins have been meeting over the past few weeks to kind of evaluate that, kind of figure out what our options were. We kind of figured out, looked at what are the options that we have. And one of them was to do the minimum. Next was to upgrade and repair the facility. And the next was to tear the facility down and start over. So we met with Kevin.
Can I bet?
Mhm.
Yes.
There he is. Good talk, yeah.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Actually, during the big rainstorm, we were in there, so we proved that the roof does not leak.
Amazing structure.
So it was
One little place.
just one little place. But basically, we found, for me, it was eye-opening. I don't know if you've ever been in that garage. That was the first time I've ever been in that garage. It was amazing of all of the, quote, stuff that is in that building, it's used for. And what was also surprising for me, when you look from the outside, you look at the inside, it was pretty structurally sound.
Yeah.
From the building, the roof, yeah, it had a couple of minor leaks, but the physical structure of the building was in pretty good shape, which again, I was somewhat surprised by looking at it from the outside. It is huge, it is enormous for this facility to do something with. And I couldn't believe how many departments use it. Basically everybody. The town, the chamber, the police, the fire, the highway,
The library.
everybody uses that facility. So there are some cons, and as you drive by, you can see what those are. The siding is in terrible shape with holes and whatnot. The windows are boarded up and wired with wire mesh. There are a couple windows that don't exist anymore, and they're kind of open to the air and to the animals. The front door needs replacing. The driveway is in very poor condition to drive into that facility. There's actually a washroom in the back of the facility. That, of course, probably hasn't been used for, I don't know, decades. And there's no electricity in the library storage area, which I know has been a subject brought up before at this meeting, but I didn't realize that there was no electricity, so they have no lights. And the door in the storage, the door of the library storage is also not working. So basically what we came up with was 3 options, okay? And option 1 is to do the minimum. And that basically is, first of all, clean out the outside of the building. There are some tires on the one side of the top building that has been laying there. There's I think a plow of some sort in the back that I don't think is used by anybody. But to clean out the outside of the site, replace the door to the office of the libraries because it doesn't work, and then close in the abandoned windows that are up on the top, so the rain doesn't come in and elements don't come in. And then to maybe put a fresh coat of paint on the front door to kind of make it look a little bit more presentable. And if I'd like to look at installing some electricity in the library storage. I know it's been a topic before. I'd like to re-examine that. And that, to me, and the committee, is to do the minimum. Okay? Yes?
And I've been in there several times, and I do know that one corner, as you go in, the far left corner is like open to the river practically.
Yes.
But this do the minimum would not tackle that. Because that looked like a really big.
Yes.
concerns.
Okay.
We could, and I'm not saying that it couldn't, it wasn't in our discussion, because option two is because the roof is in good shape, and it really is the siding that really needs to be replaced.
Yep.
Would be, and option two would be to upgrade the facility, and I saw it as a couple of phases, depending on how much money this all costs, we could phase it in a couple of phases. And phase one would be to replace all of the siding, that's all the way around the facility, okay? Remove the bathroom altogether, demo that thing, and then square off the back, so it'd be more square, because the bathroom kind of extends outside of the building. To remove that, to square it off, which would give us, I think, a little bit more distance from the river, from that area. Ensure the electrical system and the electrical boxes are all meeting code. We think they do, but we want to make sure. Install a light in the office, replace the door of the office, replace the front door, the giant door, and repair the sidewalk in the driveway. So it's presentable. And then, of course, I think what makes it also has to be done is all the old stuff, we need to clean it out. And I think all the departments have to go through their stuff to figure out what is really needs to be trashed and what can be stored and stayed, because it's a mess inside. There's no organization at all inside. It's just scattered around. But then phase two, we saw, depending upon once we clean it out, is the floor needing to be repaired or replaced? Because there's a lot of cracks and holes in the floor, but I think that's okay. We look at some new lighting. I mean, all you have is some can lights throughout the place if we're going to really use it. Enlarge the storage area for the library, the Friends of the Library. We could take another bay, square it off, and enlarge that space for them. And also look at some better organization for the other departments if we're going to use it for storage. Okay. The third option was to tear it down and rebuild. We could either rebuild there, buying another structure, kind of a steel container or some type of storage building. Steel probably wouldn't fly in this town, but some type of large storage, or, talk to Chase, do we make storage everywhere else and we could just get rid of that building? We make the highway department figure out their storage up there, we figure out a storage place for the library, we figure out a place. All of that's gonna cost anyway. So we're looking, if you give us permission to kind of look in that direction, we can give you pricing on both. But that's basically what we're here today, is to kind of tell you what we've seen and kind of get your okay for us to proceed with getting and talking with contractors to try to put some numbers to these projects to give you a sense of what it would cost on what we want to do.
I know Gary Allen from the highway department, I had him go in there last year, so just to look, just get a general idea. He said it's a sound structure. And that doesn't mean it doesn't need work.
Right.
But he did say that. Now, Kevin, did you have that kind of sense too?
Oh,
That
yeah.
you're dealing with a good building?
Yeah, it's a post and beam type thing, but different construction. Nailed together, said joinery. But it had an old metal, like rolled roofing for the siding, which they don't make anymore. It looks like bricks. And I mean, basically that saved the bottom of that whole entire wall structure because of all the backsplash. Which all the water comes off there and it's backsplash. And that was just wood that would have been high by now. I mean, suggestion. I mean, in the future, whoever resides that, you're going to need something on that lower portion like that for backsplash, and the rest of it could be wood. But the thought is too, they don't make that fake brick stuff in the big sheets of roll roofing, but you could, like the town garage where they have the metal siding. I mean that would work, and it's relatively cheap compared to any kind of other product you're going to get into. So that's what you want to look at.
And you say the roof is not leaking?
Couple spots, but I think
That's probably good.
Spots.
That's good to hear, because we
Yeah.
replaced that roof
Yeah,
in 2001. I can't remember.
could be a couple.
No, it was a little later. It wasn't that late, because I was still
Because it
with
got
Scott Hayes.
painted,
Scott Hayes
Scott
was on
Hayes
board,
was in on it.
myself,
Got painted.
in the
the
beginning.
building got painted, the roof got replaced, and
Yeah.
there should be an engineer's report from them too.
Probably. But I'm glad to hear that it's holding up.
Yeah.
It is.
We spent money that's holding up pretty good.
Yeah.
So, interesting.
So we know that we can get pricing, we can talk to contractors to get quotes, so we can put some dollars to this. I just want to make sure that you give us the okay to speak, to do that. There'll be no money no allocation of funds yet. It would just be for us to say, okay, replace the siding, fix the sidewalk, do these things, give us a price on that. And we would do a price for each one of these options and then present that to you in a month or so too.
So I'll ask the selectmen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little of my opinion, I think option 2 obviously sounds very sane and like the logical thing, because if it's structurally sound and it's such a great infrastructure, it's an eyesore, but that can be remedied by a smaller amount, and tearing it down just to do what? Be so costly, and to find storage would be so costly. So I'm definitely in favor of getting quotes to see what option 2 would involve for the new siding, new windows, the electrical, and just see how far it goes. And then if there are things that we have to nix or whatever, to bring it down. But that's my thoughts.
I think that, I just want to make sure, I mean, you guys know far more about that facility and what's in there than I do. I know we put the playground in there that we ripped up when the Whitney Center went in, and so that's an example of something that probably should find its way to a dump. You know, I mean, but is there a legitimate storage use that we have in town that we would be shorthanded if we didn't have a facility like that to store important things we need to store?
Well, the highway department, from my understanding, has a lot of the wood, concrete, cinder blocks, all that in the back of that facility.
Tires.
Yes, could we buy a storage container and put it up there and have them move all their stuff up there? Probably. But you would buy that. The Friends of the Library, that's a legitimate use for them. We would have to find another place for them.
So there's a considerable amount of stuff that doesn't belong to the town. I mean, the library stuff's, it's not,
It's
Correct.
The friends.
And then you have
you know, and
the
then there's
emergency,
playground stuff.
you have the emergency trailer that's parked.
Yeah, that's the ambulances technically, that's not the town's, that's the ambulance responsibility, it belongs to the state. But the ambulance took it from the state and asked if we could park it in there, so it's not ours.
Emergency preparedness trailer thing?
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of them in the state, and one of the rules to be able to acquire that from the state is it has to be stored indoors. So it had left Conway because it was being stored outdoors, and the ambulance took it and asked if they could put it in there, and that's how it ended up there. It ended up it went to Memorial for COVID. It was down there throughout that. So there is quite a bit of stuff. The Chamber of Commerce has a couple bays worth of staging and stuff in there.
There's all those tires from, a lot of it is the highway.
Yeah, 50% of it's the highway.
Staging?
Staging for the Chamber of Commerce.
What kind of,
For
for
events.
park?
Yeah, for
Oh,
duck race,
staging,
they stand on it and stuff. So there's quite a bit of stuff that, and then there's miscellaneous stuff that's not necessarily ours.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Well, we're using it now,
Okay.
you know, so let's make it look better and use it. So I agree with Barbara. I don't like the idea of getting rid of it. I mean, there is some history to the building too. That's another part of it. You know, there's a tendency to tear everything down and start over, you know. I think number 2 is a good option, but what do you want to do as far as the Board of Selectmen? You want to dig deeper? Do you want to dig in all of them, or what we might recommend?
We'd like to go with option 1 and 2, at least get
I see.
pricing for them. Because I think, Bob, unless you're in agreement, I don't think tearing it down is anybody's interested in doing that.
Yeah, that doesn't seem.
So let's get pricing for 1 and 2, and then we can.
Good.
We can make the decision there based on.
Yeah, and I think that was really good input that Kevin had too, was like thinking about the keeping it protected from the weather with whatever siding happens,
Yep.
you know,
No, we need to
things
steel
like
side
that.
it.
So-
Yes, no sides.
That's what we were looking at, because that is where it's worse, because they're all along the bottom. I don't know if you've noticed, they're all along the bottom is all.
So did you say option 2 is actually going to shorten that building?
Only because the
Why-
bathroom would disappear.
Okay.
Building
Where the
itself-
river's got it under.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And that area has been inundated before with floodwater. There's still silt on the concrete there where the rivers come in at some point.
Well, that's
One of the
just
things
from where it floods in from the front, not from the rear. The river hasn't been that high to
Really?
flood
Is that
the
right?
building. What
All
it does
the
is
way back to
if
the back?
we get deluge rains, it comes in the front door, And because there's no, it's just a
Ah.
poor design. And it floods sand in there. That's how that happened.
Okay, because it's only in the back.
If the river comes up high enough to go in that building,
We're all.
the bridge is gone.
The other option we had talked about and not wrote it down was, if that was a concern of that distance between the river and the building, there is a bay, because it's all situated by bays, that if we removed one of the bay, we would pick up 20 feet back. So that would be taking off the back wall and then doing the whole back wall. But that would bring us 20 feet away from the river.
For that expense.
I think
Yeah.
the threshold question is whether or not you want to preserve the building
Mhm.
or tear it down.
Yeah.
And once you make that threshold decision, then it's a matter of iteration of how much you do or don't do in order to preserve it. I think the basic suggestion is that if you decide you want to keep it, that you have to do some basic things. And first,
Mhm.
clean it up. It looks like an eyesore,
Yeah.
I have some different words, but it's an eyesore. And people leaving crap on the outside of it is totally impossible. Why, I mean, there's so much space inside to throw crap. Why put it outside? But yet there it is. It's garbage outside, garbage inside, and it just needs to be cleaned up. There's the plantings around it. There's just junk that's grown up. It doesn't belong there. It looks like hell, and it's one of the first things you see after you come over the bridge, besides glossies. And it's like, really, is that what you want
Right.
us to have? So if you want to keep it, at least fix it up so that it looks presentable. And it's not just lipstick on a pig. It should be done in a way that you look at it and you say, yeah, that's an asset of the town.
Mhm.
We can do it, and I'm for that option.
Yep.
Preserve it,
Yeah.
fix it. That's the
I
way I
think-
feel.
And then you have to develop a plan to maintain.
I was gonna say, I think the phase
We gotta
3
keep
is
looking.
really important too, though. Once we identify and take care of it, making sure that all the parties, because like you said, Jay, it's not all town property, so making sure that all of the owners of the property that is stored there are accountable for taking care of it and upkeeping, and maybe that means some of them have to contribute some time on the maintenance side of it, whether it be landscaping or something. So just keeping that phase 3 in mind. is important.
Demoing could be a town event too.
Bring your
4th of
tractor.
July. Fireworks.
Oh, jeez. So do we have
How
to
this
make a
built.
motion then to move forward, or since we're not spending money? do we-
Well, I don't think we need a motion, but I'm happy to
Yeah.
entertain one. I think the direction of, taking a look at option 2 and
Mhm.
really getting a number makes all
Yeah.
the sense in the world. And I got a feeling you guys feel the same way.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
We can make it officially. You want to make a motion to study and look at option 2 as the most viable alternative?
So,
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
all right.
Hi,
Thank you, Dave.
thanks for that, Brady.
That's good. Glad to hear it. Real good.
Thanks for spending all the time to really get wrapped around the needs.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, we have a short-term rental to approve. The planning board approved it. But it has been approved.
Yes.
For Daniel and Deborah Kimball on Tucker Lane in Jackson, New Hampshire. So,
I will make a motion to approve the Kimball 13 Tucker Lane short-term rental.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
This is 523. I think there's only one signature on this one,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's correct.
All right. And we're still pending on some Harvey and Malloy, so there's nothing further on that. We have some approved building permits here, but I don't think there's any, replacing a door, repair, attached garage, maybe any more said about that. And then, just getting to our next meetings, Tuesday, June 13th at 3:30, and then Tuesday, June 27th at 3:30. You're gonna be, you're away, so
I'm here. For the both of those,
Both.
it's on next week,
Oh,
yeah,
next week, okay.
yes.
All right, you gotta bring this up, and it's gonna be short, okay? What I'll do first, as far as the discussion on press access, all right, is I just wanna ask the other two selectmen if you wanna discuss this or talk about this. I mean, we know how you feel and how I feel, we're not exactly sure, but if we take a vote, whatever we do, I've always abided by any vote that I've been as a selectman, almost 18 years now, wherever it goes, whichever way, okay? So, do you want to have further extended conversation about this, or should we just put it to a vote? It's up.
I
it's
have a
up to you.
question first.
Okay, please.
Instead of adding media comment as a separate item on an agenda, can media be part of public comment because they are part of the public? So my question, I guess, is there a reason to put that as a separate item to have press access, or can we just say that we're going to keep public comment on the agenda, but it is limited to comment and/or questions by the public, media included, and if we don't have the answer and the information, like you said, we have no comment, or we will gather further information and get back to them at the next meeting. And that's, my question is, can we do something like that and just leave it the way it is?
I think that's kind of like the way things have always gone. We haven't, I don't know if either one of you have ever sat up here when public comments were limited to Jackson residents. I
Yeah.
never have.
I
So
don't,
anybody is free to come in here and make a comment anytime they want about anything they'd like to. So I don't see any need to separate it out or change anything. I mean, Frank mentioned that there had been 2 times in 2 years that someone had been here from the media, and so I'm not sure what's broken needs to be fixed. I think the way it works now is fine. I think everybody has access to the board here during the public comment section of the meeting. I've never heard anybody say they had an issue with getting access to the selectmen between meetings. And so, yeah, I think the way that it's been structured in the past has worked.
Right, well, I just say that I came at this rather innocently because I didn't realize that we weren't taking questions from reporters. I honestly didn't, because we always did in my previous life as a selectman. So I just always figured it was there to happen, and I'm gonna answer those questions. Well, I found out it wasn't on the agenda, and, you know, a new way of doing things has taken over the last 10, 12, 15 years, maybe it's been. I really feel strongly about having the press being able to ask us questions, but I'm not gonna beat myself over the head. I mean, that's just my opinion. So what you're talking about, I think, is so during the comment period, a reporter can make a comment. Is that what you're saying?
Or ask a question. And that's the same as a public. Anyone in the public can ask us a question, because like Bob said at the last meeting, this is the time when we're all together and discuss things.
Is that okay?
However, if we don't know the answer to something, if for anyone, media or not, it will be researched, discussed, and brought up at the next meeting for answer. Or if it's something as simple as Julie can get that to you next week or whatever, then we'll take it then. But I think to expect us to answer and address every comment is not reasonable, because we don't know all our answers right now.
Well,
So-
the reason that this was put in the past, where you say this is not a question and answer session, right on the agenda, and it's been there for a number of years, is because there have been attempts to make it a question and answer session in the past. And so if a board's primary function is, one of the primary functions is to determine direction and plan and follow protocol and things like that. If all of a sudden somebody walks into the meeting and starts wanting to conduct a question and answer session, whether it's for their personal benefit or it's for a news story or whatever the motive is, that leaves us not having had an opportunity to prepare. And so I've always been extremely accessible to people from the media that have wanted comments, especially when I was the chair. And I think that's probably, you mentioned it, how we did it, is like, you want to contact the Sun and kind of like, you know, check in with them and see how they feel about things. I think there were a number of times where there were some things that went on in this town that we couldn't publicly comment on, but that's a comment too. So I don't think, that is not a press access issue. The press has always had full access, and opening up a meeting to become a question and answer session and press access are two different things.
Again, I was press access, 5 minutes, the end of the meeting, shut it off at that point, no matter where, in the middle. But again, I've said what I can say about this, and I hear you and hear you, so I want to get back to what you said. It says it's not a question and answer session, so the reporter or anybody can't ask us a question. They can make a comment.
Right.
All right, just so we're clear on that. Okay,
And
so we're really
we're still a small town,
Yeah.
and we're still a relaxed body.
Yeah.
And so I don't recall anybody ever having a fit when somebody during a public comment session wants to ask a question.
Right.
No.
But subjecting people that are here to this meeting for issues of their concern or to report to us and taking their time out of their day for something that's important for them, they may not necessarily want to sit through a question and answer session.
Well, we're going to limit some of them, but you're right.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And, you know, Damien came up after the last meeting I was at, and we sat up here and talked for as long as he wanted. I don't see any, that's a great example, I think, of press having full and fair and free access to the town's business through the Board of Selectmen. And every meeting we have has been videoed for that very reason. We want to make sure everybody's open, everybody's transparent, everybody can go back and take a look at anything they want and decide how that exchange worked out for them. And I just think if there's one question coming after another,
yeah.
that's not what the public comment section of our meeting is for. And
That's why we're public.
it's a relaxed body and everything else, but at the same time, this is a parliamentary meeting, and it's why we approve minutes from past meetings. It's why we seek motions and seconds and have discussion and recognize people from the floor. Those are protocols connected with doing the business that we need to do, and I think that sticking to them makes sense.
We can make whatever protocols we want, of course, because other towns do have press access and they do that, okay, but this board's not, okay? So, I think we probably said enough about it. I think we know where we're all feeling now. I guess I have to make a motion so that it doesn't pass, or, I'll make a motion to give press access, and I'm gonna ask, I'm just saying potentially, and I'm gonna ask, can I get a second? If I don't get a second, it's done and over with, and we're gonna stay where we're at. But I want a little guidance from you guys, because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I want to make sure we understand where we're coming from. I've made my point, you've made your point, Barbara, you have too. Can we just, don't have to vote on it? Do you think we should vote on it? Or just say we're going to stay with where we've been and just go with status quo?
Well, I don't think
make a
we
motion.
need to make a motion on anything if we don't want to.
All right, okay?
I agree.
All right.
Staying the way we are.
Okay, all right. And I think, again, the public through video and anybody's here knows where we're coming from. All right?
I also want to make a comment on public comment and questions and answers as it is surrounding budgets and large items. And I made a point at the last town meeting that I wish more people would come to the meetings when the agenda is put out and there are items that are of large interest. So when we talk about the capital improvement plan and results of that, and there are gonna be some on many meetings moving forward. And we're gonna be talking about really, really important items that are visited every 5 to 10 years as capital improvement programs are done. And I wish and hope that more citizens and taxpayers and voters, all of them, come in and listen or question or, call us or contact us, request information, but participate in the town business any other time in addition to the town meeting. Because I love that the town meeting is really a wonderful place to voice your opinion and stuff, but our budget is, our conversations have been discussed and done, and to come to the budget hearings is when it's the most important, line by line by line, in great detail, for people to ask those questions and get enlightened on how we want to spend the taxpayers' money and make this town work. So I just want to plead again with the people to come to the meetings, especially as it's moving forward with the important stuff we have.
Well, some people did cheer at the meeting when you had that little speech.
I
so
hope
I
they're
think there
cheer
were
when they
people
watch
listening.
Hank's video next time too. Because Hank
Right.
gets a lot of views on his videos, so I hope
Right.
we get
Okay.
some people.
How many views you get on an average?
Anywhere from 150 to 200.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
I
For
love
the
it
annual
that
meeting.
people do that.
Oh yeah, the annual meeting, yeah, it was like over 200,
Great, that's excellent.
and then for these meetings it's like 150 to
Really?
200.
That's great.
Yes,
People are more involved than I thought.
yeah.
That's good.
I
So
watched it
that's-
10
That's
times.
good, so we're hearing all this about the fire station, all the things we've been talking about.
Yeah,
That's very
right.
important.
Right.
Mr. Terry, you have a comment?
Yes, I'd like to make a public comment.
Please do.
I appreciate both Bob and Barbara's comments regarding access to the Board of Selectmen, especially at this meeting. I agree that all of you are fairly accessible outside of the meeting, and I appreciate that your comments regarding whether the press should have special privileges that exceed those that you allow to any citizen are inappropriate. That anybody who comes to this meeting should be able to make a comment, and if you so choose to make a response, it's your choice, but that it's not a question and answer period, and if you do that for a purpose to maintain some sort of level of protocol at the meeting. But my comment is that to give the press more access to you than you give to your own citizenship would be inappropriate. And I'll just leave it at that.
I can't respond. Any other comments?
No
Okay.
comment,
Oh.
right?
Oh, no, that's
No,
what I
that's
said.
what
No, I
you said,
said I
no
can't
comment.
make
I know.
comment. I didn't say can't comment, I said no comment. You want to make, you have a
I
comment?
can make a comment. I'm sitting here wondering where the new fire station might be. I saw the fire chief nod his head and say something about a tennis court, but I wasn't sure what that.
When you come through the covered bridge, on the right-hand side, you'll see an open space, used to be tennis courts, and now we actually use them for parking. That's what he's talking about.
Okay. Just another comment about.
How many comments can you make?
Yeah, that's another question, but then I'm wondering how many comments can I make? These guys ask questions. And then the other comment I'd have is, if the board is seated like we were the last time, and the meeting's adjourned, the camera's off, and we're talking about town business, I mean, that would be a right to know issue, because it would be doing business outside of.
If there was a quorum, right?
If it's a quorum.
So if there's only one person, you can, so two people would have to leave to have questions answered by you. So
Right.
Is that what that means?
That's what I think it means.
All right.
I don't know, I'm not gonna get into questions.
Yeah,
It's just-
yeah, no, we're not gonna do
Public
that.
comment,
No,
we're not gonna do
we-
it.
no, we're not
I'm happy
gonna
to talk about anybody with anything after the meeting.
I'm still unclear on what the policy is, other than it was the same as it was, but seemed like people could make comments, public and press, and may or may not get an answer from the board.
No, I don't think so. I think we pretty much stated where we're at, and it's status quo, staying where we were. That's the only thing I want to say, but I do want to get on to something else. So thank you, okay, just want to mention something.
Thank you.
The Bartlett Jackson Transfer Station is going to be a public hearing. I just want to get this out there now because we're going to be we hope to change the hours up there. And so on January 8th at 5:30 in Bartlett, the selectmen are going to meet and talk in June. The proposed new hours, Monday, Tuesday, and Friday from 12 to 6, which is what they are now, okay? And then Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 4 instead of 12 to 6. All right? It'll be closed Wednesdays and Thursdays. So just everybody just know, and please, if you have any problems with this, show up at the public hearing in Bartlett at 5:30 on June 8th, and you can discuss it. But the guys that work up there, they think this would be much better, particularly in the wintertime because it's dark and no one ever goes up there after 4. You know, and I know that Bartlett is fully on board, and I believe we are in terms of changing these. But you know, there's going to be a hearing, so we'll find out exactly where we all stand.
Julie, I must have misread that when that came through the first time. I thought it was just the Sunday hours only they were looking to change. but
Saturday and
Now we're
Sunday.
looking at changing Saturday and Sunday, so I must have misread that and just saw the Sunday.
Well, we were going
And
to,
there's-
there was going to be a daylight savings time,
Yeah.
standard savings time change, but I guess that just got too convoluted and
Yeah.
people would be too
Yeah.
confused and all of it.
And there's 2 reasons. One, because they have monitored the traffic between 4 and 6, and it is so minimal. And this also allows all of the dedicated employees at the transfer station to have 2 days a week where they can be home for supper with their families. And I think that will, in my opinion, all adjust accordingly. So I hope it's a positive turnout at the hearing.
Right.
And that is going to be posted on emails or
It
something.
already
Oh,
has
it is.
been, I
It's
think.
not today.
It's, yeah,
Yeah.
Should I put this in the wall in the post office?
It's already-
It's already there,
yeah,
of course,
we've got it covered.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, of course. Sorry.
thanks for reviewing it.
All right, I'll make them, unless there's any other discussion, any comments?
I don't know.
All right, I'll make a motion, do we adjourn the meeting?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
I
Aye,
Aye. Thank you.
thank you.
Good.